7:01, I'm going to call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. First, before we get started, as the Deputy Selectman suggested, I'd like to observe a moment of silence for the fallen officers in Bristol. Thank you. Selectman Baker, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I do have a couple of added agenda items. I'd like to add agenda item 9I, which is a discussion and vote on the school resource officer memorandum of understanding between the town and the board and the school district. Is there a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Then I'd like to add agenda item 9J, which is the TD Bank governmental entity certificate of resolution. Can I have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right. Attendance, all members of the Board of Selectmen are here. We're now up to our approval of meeting minutes from October 6th. Any corrections?
Move to approve the October 6, 2022 regular meeting minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Made and seconded. Any discussion or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No carried. Public participation. This is one of two opportunities for the public to address members of the Board of Selectmen. As always, I'll first start with members who are, or with anybody from the public who's here present, and then afford the same opportunity to anybody who's online. Is there anybody in the room who would like to address the board? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street, Broadbrook. I realize we're not discussing the blight ordinance today. However, if in fact that ever goes to town meeting, if that town meeting is scheduled very quickly, the public will not have time to read that whatever ordinance comes out of all of this wordsmithing and changes. And I think we deserve quite a reasonable amount of time to be able to review it. Because basically people have only seen the one that came out in June. And all the other stuff since then has been impossible to read. So when there's a final document, I think it should be available to the public and then eventually a town meeting. My opinion.
Thank you, sir.
I'm done.
Any other public comments? Is there anyone online who would like to address the Board of Selectmen? Please state your name and your address. Asking a second time? Asking a third time? All right, there will be another opportunity later in the meeting to do the same. So a couple of communications. As we all saw on our tour along the train tracks with members of the Enfield Town Council, there is a considerable sinkhole that is located just behind Park Hill, right on the railroad line. I sent a letter to Commissioner Giulietti at the Department of Transportation, as well as our insurance carrier and our state representatives. And we got a response from DOT, and that is included in your packet. So you can see they've acknowledged awareness of the issue. They've taken some steps to remedy it, and they'll be taking others in the next, I'm assuming, I'll say a couple of months, probably accurate.
The kids were driving around it. I walked it the other day. And they, on the side of the big sinkhole, you can see the tracks from either quads or motorcycles skirting around. So they are still riding through there.
It is a
And it's huge.
significant problem. The state has been made aware of it. They've added some signage, but it is, in my estimation, when I went out and looked at it yesterday, still insufficient. Okay, So October is a couple of awareness months that we like to recognize. The first is a proclamation recognizing Breast Cancer Awareness Month. That's in your packet. And the second is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. That's in your packet. We have received a letter of intent to submit his retirement from the Chief of Police. That's in your packet. We'll move on to reappointments, 7B. Sorry? There are 3 reappointments to the American Heritage River Commission for terms expiring on November 1st, 2026. Scott Tripp, Albie Grant, and Amy LaRue. What's the pleasure of the board? You want to reappoint them together individually?
I'm okay together. Okay, I'll move to reappoint Scott Tripp, Albert Grant, and Amy LaRue as regular members to the American River Heritage Commission for a term expiring November 1st, 2026.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry, sir.
She said to appoint all 3 as regular, that says one of them should be an alternate.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can amend my motion, thank you. I can
Oh,
amend
right.
that to Scott Tripp and Albert Grant as regular members and Amy LaRue as an alternate member.
The motion has been amended. Is the second amenable?
Yes.
All in favor of the amended motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All in favor of the motion as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Leonard Norton as the hearing officer of towing and impounding of vehicles.
Make a motion to appoint Leonard Norton, the hearing officer of towing and impounding vehicles.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
No expiration date?
It's annual.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
What are you, like ahead of the game tonight?
Well,
Making up for it.
I'd like to table agenda item 7C1 until our next meeting. Actually, that would be a motion to postpone, please.
I'll move to postpone agenda item 7C, new appointments.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that brings us to agenda item 8C, discussion of permit link proposal for the development of the land use module. I'd like to postpone that until our second meeting, still pending legal review. May I have a motion?
Make a motion to postpone item 8C, discussion of permit link proposal till next meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? ARPA deeper dive. Okay. Where's so I've got Amy, Melissa, Joe. I saw Ruth was over there. Okay, so we have been working pretty diligently trying to come up with recommendations for the board as to how to move forward with our ARPA allocation. So I'm going to give 2 of these to you.
Okay.
I'm going to give 2 of these to you, and Peg, you can have mine at the end of this.
Okay.
Oh, that's actually not true. I ran it up. Okay, so we have a series of recommendations. I'm going to go through them in a second. And I'm going to invite all of the members of my team that have put this together to come on up and answer any questions that I may have. I will go to the podium because people like that. But, you know, really, this has been a collaborative staff level effort for 5 or 6 2-hour meetings. We put a lot of time into this. And if there are questions or comments that I can't answer, I'm confident that members of the team can. So I'm gonna. Oops, sorry.
Jason, could you give me your staff?
It's me, Amy, Melissa, Joe, Ruth, and Mike D'Amato and Len Norton. When did that go? Okay, so we've come up with some recommendations based on the community survey. And I'll kind of walk through them. Maybe I won't walk through them.
Where's the, is that the right clicker?
It's my clicker.
Oh, just use the mouse check. It works from pretty much all over.
This. Okay, so we started off with like something like 145 unique comments that fit into really 3 different categories: hard infrastructure, environmental quality, and quality of life. And some of those categories received 2 comments, some of them received 85 comments, some of them, you know, you could be organized in such a way so that they made a larger presentation. But by and large, the things that came out of there, out of the original assessment of the survey, was that hard infrastructure, quality of life, and environmental quality are where the community wanted us to focus. So these are the comments that fit into those in some fashion. This is a retread from the last time you saw this. This is also a retread from the last time you saw this, which is what the actual weighted results are of this, the 1 to 5 score on the survey. So you can see, again, hard infrastructure, quality of life, and environmental quality were the leaders. So there are still some things that we need to keep in mind. Some of these projects may be able to be funded other ways. Some of we need to make sure that we've committed the funding in total by the end of by December 31st of 2024, and expended the money in total by December 31st of 2026, or it needs to get returned. So that would be a loss. There are some programs that are ARPA driven or CRF driven or HEROES Act driven or CARES Act driven or any of the other federal stimulus acts that provided certain assistance to people who were affected by the pandemic. Those programs are already starting to phase out, which are creating some problems that one way or another we're all going to have to be cognizant of and figure out how, if at all, we're able to respond to them. So those are just some things to keep in mind. So here is the distribution of the dollars that our team came up with based on the project weighting. I can see there's one missing on there. There is one missing on there, so we'll come back to that in a second. So in total, it's $2.65 million worth of projects. We have $2.35 million worth of funding available. So even with these recommendations, if the board were to go forward with most of them, we still have to determine what gets cut, and we need to remove another 200,000 or so. So the first project is a revitalization of Osborne Field and Volunteer Park, and the estimate on this project is $500,000. This, as you all know, quite a bit of work has been done on East Windsor Park over the last couple of years, and what we're trying to do is make sure that investment in quality of life opportunities is balanced geographically. We also heard quite a bit of response in the survey about people's intentions for pickleball courts and other park amenities, walkability as another component of it. Again, this was specifically requested, and we estimate the price tag is $500,000. Anybody from my group want to add anything to this? I'm going to ask that each time. So, okay. Next project is a replacement of the pavilion at East Windsor Park. Anybody who's seen it knows that it is in pretty tough shape. It is as old, I believe it is as old as the park. Definitely needs a new roof. The certain parts of the boards are starting to rot away. It will need to be replaced at some point, and that comes with a relatively hefty price tag. So the opportunity that we're talking about is, instead of doing a book-ended or a double-sided pavilion, doing 2 detached pavilions that would allow for more rentals at the same time, which would potentially be a local revenue driver. It fits in with the recently completed master plan. Okay. This is another thing that was specifically referenced in the community survey, park improvements in general, I mean, and we think the price tag on that is $450,000 based on the quotes that we received, I think, 2 weeks ago. So the next one is a geriatric social worker. The funding allocation that we're recommending funds that position for a 3-year period of time, which does 2 things. First of all, it allows for a response to an uptick in demand amongst our senior population as we're coming through the pandemic and now the likely recession that's going to be predicated because of the rising interest rates. So we know that there's going to be a demand for service. We're already seeing that demand for service, and we have the funding available to help combat that. The other thing that this does is it allows us to aggregate 3 years worth of data to determine the feasibility and the demand for continuing the program with local dollars beyond that. But it does provide for a full-time geriatric social worker for a 3-year period of time if we were to start it on the first of the year. That estimate is at a $300,000 number. The School Hill Water Association, this is not a new one to anybody on this board. We've already conditionally committed the funds for this project. The School Hill Association is 31 houses comprised of 90 residents on a shared community well that is failing. It is failing due to contaminant increasing levels to the point where potability is becoming a risk and a concern in the near future. One step in there. Yikes. Okay, so we're going to try and soldier through that. We've already conditionally committed this, but we haven't gone through the steps of actually committing it, which would involve after this meeting, defending it to the Board of Finance and then have it approved by a town meeting. So we need to follow that process through. Facade improvements. This is something that we had talked about in terms of, and what I mean by facade improvements is on municipally owned buildings, making them kind of a more welcome, inviting, professional look than they have had in the past. We have a number of buildings that don't even have signs in front of them indicating what they are, or where you can find particular departments. So this is something that we talked about doing in terms of beautification and professionalism and kind of placemaking. We think that between the 5 municipal buildings that we have, 5 includes the consideration for the community center, if anybody's doing the math. We think that it's about $50,000 per site for a total of $250,000. Eminent domain. We've talked about this a number of times at the board level, and the town attorney has estimated that if we were to go forward with it in terms of the professional and technical assessments that need to be done to effectuate that, it would cost somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000. And if we're going to pursue that, it makes all of the sense in the world for that not to be local taxpayer dollars and to be paid for in part by the federal government, actually in total by the federal government. This puts the town in a stronger position in terms of making sure that we can understand the most beneficial reuse of the property, that we have an understanding of what the site conditions are, that we have an understanding of what the market rates would be for the acquisition of the property. And it would effectively, if fully effectuated, unencumber the restrictions on the property. Emergency generators. This is not something that's scored on the community surveys, but we all know that this is something that in an emergency, we will need to be able to continue government operations and emergency response operations. This would allow for the replacement of 3 emergency generators, one at Public Works, one at Town Hall, and one at the community center. Excluded from that list is this building because this one is new enough and operable enough so that we don't need to worry about replacement at this point in time. Digital signage in town buildings. This is something that has been talked about for a long time. There are some restrictions that would kind of slow our progress to accomplishing this. Most significantly, we need to amend our zoning regulations to allow for that. But this would allow for another means by which we could share information with the community about, local votes or local board and commission meetings or local happenings that, as people are driving by points of interest in the town, it's an opportunity for us to provide them additional information. So this was another one that was requested in the community survey. And we think that the price tag for this would be $40,000 per sign when you include the material and the installation, foundations, running electrical, all that stuff. We think it's a $40,000 per building ask. So that's for 3 locations.
So currently those aren't legal in town?
They are against local zoning regulations, yes. Social services general assistance. Anybody who was at the Board of Finance meeting last night knows that there had to be a second transfer already in this fiscal year to provide additional general assistance funds. We are getting just hammered by the Relocation Act. And the reason for that is when the town creates a circumstance where somebody can't habitate their home, under federal law, we are responsible for covering their costs until they can find a like-kind accommodation at a comparable rate. The comparable rate is killing us. Because we'll use the Church Street fire as an example. If somebody was paying $800 a month for one of the apartments in the fire on Church Street, that doesn't exist. You can't find a similar accommodation at the same rate, which puts us in a bind where we are incurring considerable costs in terms of relocation. There's not a thing we can do about it because it's federal law. It's what our obligation is under the law. So what this would do, this funds $100,000 for general assistance over 3 years. It steps it down in hopes that both the economy and the need will dissipate over time. So the proposal is $50,000 in the first year, $30,000 in the second, $20,000 in the third. We typically budget, is it 13 for general assistance? 13,000 for general assistance. And how much are we at now?
Well, the second transfer makes it 53.
Yeah, and it's October. We're just barely into the second quarter. So there's a demonstrable need for this. Senior center bus. So senior transportation in a couple of different ways was specifically noted in the community survey. It's high demand. It's a state subsidized replacement program that typically allows us to replace our buses on a schedule. That program has been put on pause in part due to supply chain issues. So if we're not going to get the subsidy from the state to care for and turn over our fleet, we need to be prepared to do so ourselves. And it makes some sense to do that again with federal dollars. Walking trails and associated equipment. This was incredibly popular in the community survey. And it's a relatively low cost improvement for us to do. Once we acquire the necessary equipment, whether it's a mini loader or a skid steer or what have you, we have it, and it can be used for other projects, other purposes along the way. But it could easily cut the walking trails with some crushed stone that allows people to have additional passive recreational opportunities. Grants consultant. So one of the things that I have noticed since taking office is there is state, federal, and private sector funding available to do municipal projects, to do municipal work, but you need to have somebody who can find it, who can go get it, who can apply for the grants, who can administer them, who can generate the final reports on them. And in conversations with Mike D'Amato, who is our planning consultant, he's worked with a number of other communities who are doing specifically this. They're using some ARPA dollars effectively to reinvest in themselves, to put a small pot of money aside on a consultation basis and recoup hopefully more funding than the cost of the consultant over the period of the project. That makes sense. We've tried to do that a number of times in the past, and that's been kind of a budget victim over the years. It's been probably 10 years since we've tried to do that. But the opportunities are there now, and I don't want to see us watch the pitch go by as these funding opportunities are available. So $20,000 a year for somebody to help us do soup to nuts on grant administration seems like a good investment. Community center gym equipment. So we're all hopeful the community center is going to move forward, and that one of the benefits of that will be increased participation amongst an active adult senior population. I'm thinking, so my parents are recent retirees. They're kind of the target audience that you're looking at, somebody who's in their 60s, maybe early 70s, who still wants to do some of the more active activities that senior centers can provide for. We have the space designated on the site plan, and we're just trying to make sure that if the equipment's going to be there, again, better have somebody else pay for it than have that come out of the project costs. Welcome signage. There are 4 locations around town that have welcome to East Windsor signs that have been there for quite some time and could use a facelift of sorts. And actually in Windsorville, there is no welcome to East Windsor sign. So the proposal for $25,000 adds, basically installs 5 welcome East Windsor signs. There are some concerns around this because I believe all of them are on private property. So we got to make sure we'll have to make sure we're working with property owners. I understand Alan owns one of the boxes right next to one. So it's an opportunity for us to beautify East Windsor, and beautification of the community was something that was righteously popular in the survey responses. This is a nice little add-on for the community center as well. Two 10 by 10 greenhouses, which would allow for educational programming from youth participants all the way through the senior clubs, so that if people want to do the green thumb thing, it's another nice amenity that we can have that'll make it more attractive and more inclusive. So these are a couple of the projects that we omitted and why. So dredging of Broadbrook Pond, we estimate that that's $1 million price tag. Depending on some of the other funding sources associated with these projects and other projects that we have in the works, there may be local bond dollars available to do that. We looked into the replacement of the emergency radio system, which would encumber all of our ARPA allocation at $2.4 million. There are other opportunities for that as well. State bond funding, local bond funds are available to do that without increasing our debt service beyond the typical 2% that we do in our budget presentation. Replacement of 2 culverts along the Blue Ditch. This is another thing that we're submitting for state bond requests. I had a conversation with the Lieutenant Governor 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she asked me for an updated list of local projects, and this is going to be one of the ones that's included in that. In order to complete the community center project, we need to run a water line from Route 5 to actually just past the community center for a fire suppression system. That actually was a very late scratch in this whole thing. And the reason that came out is because that cost is included in the $5 million budget number on the project that voters will vote on. And then wide scale road improvements. This was another very, very popular response that people had. And we could spend $2.4 million 5 times over on just road projects alone. And in 10 or 15 years, we'd have to do exactly the same thing. So it's not really a transformative project for the community. Because of the federal requirements around the commission, or the commitment of the money and the expenditures of the money. So again, committed by the end of 24, expended by the end of 26. Because the funds have to be committed by the end of 24. If it looks like we're not going to be able to accomplish the project within the window, the kind of plan B for any funds unencumbered is to tag them to road improvements. So it can supplement what we do through LoSiP dollars, through road improvements, through the existing pots of money that we have. So basically anything that we're not able to commit because of timing or because of logistics or because of whatever the reason, the intention would be to then designate it for road improvements and give them the full 2 years to spend that money down, which is not difficult to do. So here's the list. And this list is correct. The revitalization of Osborne Field is on there. That's the soup to nuts. So one of the things you'll notice is that we are about $300,000 over our allocation. If you remove facade improvements, welcome signage, and building signage, that gets you to within about $1,500 of the total $3.5 million allocation from the federal government. So you can see we have been working pretty hard on this, pretty consistently on this. We've touched a lot of bases in terms of what people have asked for in the community survey. We've touched hard infrastructure, quality of life, and environmental quality. So these are the recommendations. So it's now going to be up to the board initially to figure out which ones we want to recommend. And then after our board signs off on it, we need to send our recommendations to the Board of Finance in the normal course, because we're going to expend it in the normal course of appropriating funds. And then based on what the Board of Finance does, the projects that are recommended by us and by them will have to go through town meeting. Town meeting is required for any expenditure between $20,000 and $1 million. None of these projects hit the referendum threshold, which is in excess of $1 million. So the process would be Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, town meeting. Anything? We practice this quite a bit.
What's the 80,000 for the walking trails and associated equipment? How's that spent? What's
So we think the equipment that we'll need in order to install the walking trails is pretty close to that. And then the crushed stone to lay out a pathway.
So you're talking about a Bobcat?
We didn't want to say specifically Bobcat for the reason that, what if it's not a Bobcat? What if it's another piece of equipment that would be a little bit more versatile or do the same thing? Probably a Bobcat or a skid steer, but if we didn't want to lock that in case, we did go in a different direction with the equipment and somebody said, well, why didn't you buy a Bobcat? But effectively, yes.
Tool cap. There's, depending on what we're doing and how wide we're going, there could be several different ways we're going.
Skid steer, not about.
Okay.
Pictures over one.
Other questions or comments?
I have one or two, on school.
Oh, I'm sorry, before you do that, Charlie, I should explain this. In case you guys didn't figure this out, this rather wide document is the considerations chart that we put together in formulating this. So we asked things like what impediments are there to the project, what other funding sources may be available, what other problems could be caused by doing these projects, what's the impact on our operating budget prospectively if we do it, what are the measurable hard value and soft value benefits, can the project be accomplished in the time frame set forth, who benefits from the project, and where does the project fit into the survey?
So School Hill's not on there because that was already approved by you guys.
So, but I forget what the solution was there, filtration system or going over to city water?
City water.
Okay.
And you'll recall they did get a conditional approval for a congressionally directed spending award for $1.2 million.
From CWC,
For what?
through CWC, when I had the last meeting with them, is that they were working on that.
Yeah, the Connecticut Water Company has been very helpful on that project. However, they're not contributing financially. They're contributing technical expertise in terms of the helping of the engineering work associated with running the water line. But the total project cost for the School Hill Water Association should be somewhere between $1.5 and $1.6 million. We're contributing a $250,000 based on our previous commitment to that. The congressionally directed spending award would cover $1.25 million towards that. So they're effectively at the goal line in terms of having that solution solved, with the understanding that the congressionally directed spending award has to be approved in the federal budget. We also have been the beneficiary of a couple of those, and I'm not really doing a banner on town hall kind of announcement on that because we don't know if they're going to pass a budget or not.
Oh,
So I'm sorry, you had another question, Charlie.
yeah, I'm just checking your chart here to see if it answers my question before I ask it. So with the social worker for the 3-year funding, does that include their benefits?
Yeah, the assumption, quite honestly, the assumption was a $70,000 salary.
Seven, okay, oh, okay.
Is that a full-time or part-time position?
Full time.
Working in conjunction with the police department?
No, this is in conjunction with social services and senior services. And Melissa can talk more about the demonstrated need there for that service.
Oh, no,
It's changed.
I get it.
No, we're gonna own this one. Of course, it would be available to any other agency that needed it, but the intention is for this to be in-house in community services. And it'd be a 3-year duration.
You need care to share the 4 days worth of reading on the comments?
I didn't, what?
Want to share the reading of the comments?
The reading of the comments? Oh my God, that was, I don't know how many hours that was, but it had to be double digits.
Hours. I think you did a great job on you guys. So you did great efforts.
Are you looking for a vote tonight?
Well, I don't need a vote tonight. If you guys want to borrow a phrase, if you want to percolate on it, if you want to think about it for a week or so, we can do that. There isn't a time crunch on this other than we do need to commit the funding soonish. And we need to it takes some time to spend the money on these things. So, for example, if we weren't to act on this until springtime, the numbers change quite a bit. You know, I mean, we can't fund a position for 3 years at that point in time using the geriatric social worker as an example, because there's not 3 years left. So it's ultimately, we five are going to decide what moves forward to the Board of Finance. I tried really hard to consider what the community answered in the survey, and based on what we put together, and I give a ton of credit to the team that's worked on this. I think we put together what addresses their comments and concerns, but if you guys have other ideas, we can do that. I just look forward to a 24 slide PowerPoint presentation and something wider than this.
Might add that if any of the construction projects, active design, planning, bids, specs, starting to cut close because, you know, it's not a 3-year construction period. We can only do construction in certain amount, you know, certain times. We lose 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And then if it rains, forget it. You can't even get a road paved if it rains.
So back that up to, the numbers get stale pretty quick with what's going on with the supply chain issues and inflationary costs and labor costs. Nothing to say that we need to act urgently, but things do change. So do you guys want to talk about these items next week or next time we meet? Do you have other ideas that you'd like us to staff out and workshop? This is
I think that,
harder than you think to spend 2.4 million.
no, I think that you and your team did a great job, but there's a lot to digest here and
There is.
there's some things that need to be removed, and I personally would like some time. I mean, if we could, I would be prepared to act at our next meeting, but after just seeing this now, I'm not prepared to vote after just getting a presentation a few minutes ago.
It makes you feel any better. It's about an hour and a half old. Okay, yeah, I'm happy to put this on the agenda for when's our next meeting, the 3rd. And we can talk about it then.
But
Are we gonna act upon a zone change? Not a zone change, or change for the right to have digital signage?
That's something the planning and zoning commission does. So they're already aware of the longer term goal of having that change effectuated anyway. I just flagged that as something that we couldn't actually just start constructing those things. In that we make the rules, we should follow the rules.
I agree.
So we wouldn't start that, or even go so far as to order it until planning and zoning actually decided that that was something they were comfortable with.
So if I wanted to cut that, just to have money set aside and budgeted a year down the road through our budget in process, that could be an option.
Yes.
Could be a suggestion or not.
Yep. Anything you guys can come up with is an option. Anything that you want us to consider, you know, I mean,
Yeah, so
I'm happy to do that.
on the hiking trails, in preparation for this discussion, I went and had a discussion with the American Heritage River Commission. And, you know, just to get an idea of what their needs are for our walking trail, because of the fact that so many people talked about the walking trails. And so currently they're spending about $5,000 a year, you know, from various sources, none of it town funding, for quite some time to keep that up. And so we discussed, you know, kind of looking ahead, a strategy to not only fix what needs to be fixed right now, but to provide sort of a maintenance fund for a couple of years at least. And so that number, you know, just ballpark is $70,000.
What number?
$70,000 to replace all their infrastructure,
Oh, okay.
basically, and finish the infrastructure that they have planned but haven't done yet. They are
Talk about like the red trail and that.
the red trail, the current trail, there's, you know, near Bridgetown, if you know where that is, that needs to be replaced. But then there's a walk up, you know, there's a problem on both sides. Either way you do it, you need infrastructure, hard infrastructure to actually make that stable. We have erosion in one section and the other section is not walkable because the original stuff is, you know, abandoned. So anyway,
to keep that going into, and I think that's really our only real hiking trail in town. I think we need to think about putting some money there.
The other alternative would be the unimproved part of the Koga Park, the wooded area there. There's,
Sure, but we like that, you know, if you've ever been to the New Year's hike, there's how many people, 300 people show up for that. It's used every single day. It's our only real hiking trail. It's listed on the DEP website. People come here from other places to use it, and our own townspeople use it quite a bit. So, you know, like, before we build more, we should probably finish you know, at least finish it once, and then, and start working on keeping, you know, some maintenance dollars there, because I don't think that model that they have right now is a really a good long-term way to do it. You know, they're literally collecting bottles and cans, taking grant money, donations, and that's how they've got where they are. You know, so I think it's a worthy way to spend some of this money.
Kind of going, kind of going based off what Alan just said about maintaining what we already have. If we're creating new walking trails, who would be responsible for maintaining that property? Would it be American River Heritage Commission? Would it be Public Works? How would we be?
the way I envision it, like, so if we were to do the Koga property as the example, and we had the equipment, that would be quite honestly part of Public Works obligation. I know they love having new stuff loaded on them, but I mean, that just makes the most sense. We can do it pretty quick and pretty efficiently. So next time, well, first of all, are there any other comments for tonight? Okay, so for next time, I suppose what I would do, I'm going to include this presentation in our packet for action next time. We'll walk through each of the projects that I outlined. And then if you guys have any others, if you want to, you know, over the course of the next 2 weeks, if you want to send me an email about them and have us staff them up, we can do that. If you want to just bring them to the meeting on the 3rd, we can do that too. But I wanted to make sure that this isn't something that sits on the vine too long, that we're actually trying to make some forward progress on. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right. Community center update. So for anybody who is unaware, on November 8th, there will be a question on the ballot. It's question 2, which authorizes the expenditures of up to $5 million, 3.8 of which would be up to 3.8 of which would be bonded for the renovation and expansion of Scout Hall to convert that into a multi-generational community center. That is a really exciting project. It was actually brought to me by members of the Scout Hall Building Committee back in the wintertime. We worked with them to develop an agreement, brought it to you guys. Now it's on the ballot. We have spent a fair amount of energy and money on the plans for the project, and I've asked Joe and Melissa to come and give you kind of an update as to where things stand. The final, I'm going to say the final architectural and engineering renderings. I've gone to the fire marshal and to the building official. They're going to be cited on planning and zone, or they're going to be on planning and zoning's agenda for a site plan approval on the 8th. So we're making progress, and I just want them to have an opportunity to kind of update the board and the community as to where things stand with that. Come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have the latest and greatest updated and some fancy color picture of a rendering. Because it is the plan has been a living document. Thank you.
Thank you.
Know where we can start. We've done some changes. As you can, I changed this out a little while ago. We did a few changes, just some small alterations with, this is gonna be a full basement for storage. So what we did is we had staircases at both ends. We put one staircase in the inside, and then what we turned around and we put one on the outside, because our plan is to build a nice Stamp Creek patio out here for coffee, and then in the winter, we could just take all the tables and chairs and equipment and just go down and buy code, we need two ways out of the basement. We also, and then that helped us increase the size of the game room and the fitness room. So we did that just for more space, for more equipment and more games and fit more people in the room. Other than that, we actually changed we wanted to incorporate some showers, anticipating we could use this for a shelter. So we added some single bathrooms with showers, and then we put a couple smaller bathrooms off the side, just to make sure we had plenty of bathrooms. And then, you know, so we shrunk up a little bit of our resource room. In the packet, we also, on the last page is a rendering of, we're going to have to purchase furniture for this project for social services and the senior center area. The park and rec furniture that's down there now, this room was basically made to fit that furniture, so we're gonna reuse that, save some money. But I do not really want to take the furniture out of social services, because if we intend to use that room or that office for anything, then we're gonna have to buy furniture down there. And the senior center furniture is, again, we pull it out of there, and whatever the intentions are for the fire department up there, they're gonna need someplace to sit. So I just, and it won't work. Neither floor plan furniture that's there will really work well. This is more efficient. This is repurposed furniture. It's all repainted. So, and it's not a lot of money. I mean, we renovated this whole building for $60,000 in the furniture. That was the furniture cost. This is somewhere around maybe between $13,000 and $20,000. So it's not like it's
Built into the project cost.
yes, there's no what we're talking about here. Well, we're talking about, it doesn't change the cost of the project at all. Talk a little. Okay. Well, talk about your interior.
As Joe mentioned, we've been working hard to pick out types of activities and what our vision is for the building. For example, in the fitness room, we're like to put down a rubberized floor for safety reasons and for multi-use in that room. And then a multi-use type flooring for the program room so that they can be used and easily cleaned after all the uses, so that if we have an after school cooking class, we can then turn it into a meeting room with not having to find vacuums and stuff like that, and just using a broom or something easy to clean.
This is so cute. Okay.
We picked out or started to pick out some neutral color paints with the interior designer that they are using at the architectural firm to keep some neutral painting going on in the color scheme, as well as dropping the ceiling in the big room to help save on heating costs.
Yeah, you all remember, well, you should remember how tall the ceiling is. And over there, it's gymnasium height. It's way too tall, way inefficient. I mean, there's no reason for us to heat that room, so we've and we could do some really
Recessed lighting.
some cool lighting, some really cool
Sound
features. That,
system in there so that everyone can use it and be able to hear at meetings, hear at the different socials that we do. And just make it user friendly for any of the organizations that might have the opportunity to use the building.
we want to wire a lot of the rooms with big monitors or TVs. We want to put an information TV right in the hallway, so it's constantly updating and you know, we want to do a lot of innovative things to see if we can, you know, draw more people in and exciting things.
So when this is approved on the 8th, where are we in the ready to go phase?
Once we're approved on the 8th, then we will put it out to bid. We're gonna fast track the bid. We should do an 8-week bid, but we're gonna probably do a 4 to a 6-week bid. We're still in negotiations with the architect then.
And that's to catch the foundation work before the frost.
Correct. Get the foundation work, get the materials ordered, get rolling because, the building's not gonna be being used, so it'll be a lot easier, it'll be more functional. We already have heat in the building, we'll have water, electricity. So as far as the construction way, it's ultimate, because you can work there all winter long. If we could get the footings and the foundation in, we can work all winter long, and then spring,
We have the opportunity to get the office furniture ahead of time. We can be building inside the building, all of that, so that the office furniture is ready to go right into the offices as soon as they're finished. Instead of having to wait and have that lag time in between construction.
Yeah.
Empty building would be just infuriating.
Oh, it won't be in.
So, what's the time frame for completion? Is Labor Day realistic?
Labor Day is realistic. Yeah, I'm hoping for sooner, but yeah, it's gonna be all weather driven now. Unfortunately, we're trying to start something in November. And hopefully we can start it in November. I mean, we get a good November, December, and we're good, but if we get snow in 2 weeks, like they're saying, it may just shut us right down.
Snow in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Oh.
So
We're due.
After Halloween.
we're due. No, we're not. But if we have a winter like last year, we didn't have a lot of frost until maybe the end of January, February. We can get it in. It's a little more work, but you have to keep the foundation not to freeze, but it's not undoable.
Any questions or comments?
Just because there was concern the other day, the scouting organization that uses Scott Hall currently, is there going to be access to that building during the construction of or are they going to be placed to go to another area to?
We've already reserved alternative locations for them,
Okay, I just want to make sure we don't lose the shuffle, that's all.
Which is only in the shop.
Yeah,
which is only in Shelby.
Right.
Yeah.
Once we're settled, they
They
have
have
their
their
own.
own, it's already.
yeah, I know they have their own one, but I just was concerned about the shuffle because
I've asked all the scouting leaders to give me their schedules. We're currently inputting them into MyRec.
Yeah.
And we will assign them rooms based on when they need. For when they need, if they can still use the building that, before construction, then that's fine.
There was one comment that was included in a letter to the editor suggesting that we should be looking at an alternative site for this. This is what we purchased the Covet property for, so we should be building it on the Covet property. And I just want to acknowledge that comment and make sure that everybody understands that if we were to do that, the price of this would be almost 4 times higher. So we're doing this because it makes good economic sense to partner with Scout Hall to convert the facility into a community center. You can't beat it for the price. And we could say, well, we'll just wait to do something on the Covet property, but my grandkids will be dead and gone before we get there.
And just to add to that, we are wholeheartedly supporting the mission that currently exists of the Scout Hall Youth Center to always include the youth of this community 110%. It is not our intention to get away from that. It's to mirror what they currently do, expand upon it, and add intergenerational programming that just makes for a wholesome community for people to live, work, and play in.
And to add on that is, we have 2 out of the 3 utilities at Scout Hall now. If we do Koga, we don't even have the 1 utility. There's only single phase power up there.
We need more than a skid steer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just any skid steer.
Yeah.
A bot.
Just a Bobcat.
No, it's cat.
The president of the Scout Hall Building Committee, I think, looking at the letter to the editor, the missing item there seems to be that the town has always owned this building. And I think a lot of people don't understand, and that's a key item. This is town property. And it's always been town property. So it's not like the town is taking it away from somebody. That is not the case at all.
And to your point, sir, I don't think I need to remind you that this was your idea. You know, Scout Hall approached the town and said, have you ever thought about this? And we collectively said, well, we'd like to.
Yeah.
But this is not something that we have foisted on them. They suggested to us that this would be a feasible alternative, and I think that it's really gonna be a home run for the community.
Absolutely.
Other comments for Joe and Melissa?
Just thank you for all your efforts. For putting it together. Appreciate it.
Joe, can I have a copy of that for the? Sure.
LaShawn, did you have any questions or comments?
We like following this. Thank you.
So this, for those in the room who may not recognize him, LaShawn in the back is following the development of the community center project as part of a school project for one of his pre-college courses. So he's trying to get an understanding of how the local government process works. And he took an interest in this. He and I have talked a couple of times and I invited him tonight so that he could see what a town meeting discussion would be like around the development of the project, and hopefully he'll recognize where we're all trying to go with it.
And I didn't have gray hair before it started.
Joe's only 27.
But don't get in government.
Okay, so where are we now? I'm going to ask that we table agenda item 9C. Can I have a motion to table agenda item 9C?
I'll move that we table agenda item 9C, discuss appointment of executive search firm chief of police.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the next item of business, so there is a landlocked parcel that has fallen behind in taxes, owned by Mrs. Bass. And she has said to the town, just sell it for the taxes. I don't want it. So she's effectively abandoned the property. In the past, we have just called a real estate agent and said, we have property we'd like you to list. Can you, in this case, effectively call the neighbors and figure out if anybody wants to buy it and make the deal happen. We don't have a procedure for enlisting a real estate agent, especially because the commission value on this is going to be so low. I'm comfortable just calling somebody. My first call would be to Chris Davis and just ask if it'd be something he would be interested in doing, or one of the other area real estate agents. But I wanted to talk to you guys before doing that, because this doesn't really fall in the bid or procurement policy. And even if it did, it's such a de minimis value that I wanted to ask you guys what you thought I should do with this.
Or it being landlocked, maybe the best way to go is to ask the budding property owners if, but it's landlocked, so what good is it to anyone? You can't get to it if you buy it. I mean, I know,
Except the people who live around it. And then you get the
providing their,
interest.
right, in providing their actual property line matches up to it. Yeah. And then if you don't go anywhere, and then go.
How big is the property?
Offhand, I'm not
Where
sure.
is it?
It's over on the Winkler Road side of things. So the concern that Patty had, and why she suggested that we go through the real estate agent approach, is that the town would actually incur more legal costs if this was turned over to Adam Cohen than we would get in the sale. So it doesn't make sense for us to say, just sell it because, or to the attorney, because we're gonna lose money on it. So the thought was have a real estate agent do the sale, and then we give it back on the tax roll.
I'm gonna ask you a question, but I don't want to be.
Do it.
Okay, I know somebody that lives on a particular street in town that Years ago, when they subdivided the properties, there was 2 acres of land, that was discovered that it didn't belong to any property. So they went back to the 1800s and worked their way up and determined that a particular person, myself, owned those 2 acres of land lot. Eventually and I did nothing, eventually the property got sold, around the landlocked area. And I simply went to an attorney and said, I'll give it to them free and clear, it's been there for 100 years, I'm never gonna use it, and signed it over that way. She can't do that.
Still live here anymore.
Oh,
She lives in New York City with daughter and grandchildren.
but if somebody was interested, wouldn't they just sign it over
Like quick planet?
We've got
I don't believe that's what the circumstance we're in. She hasn't found.
Oh,
What was that?
the taxes are still, there's still taxes not paid.
Right, so the taxes follow the property.
Ew, this is horrible.
Yeah, you can tell it was subdivided off of something
Yeah,
over time.
so
So do we want to turn it over to the attorney or do you want me to get a real estate agent? Those are really our 2 choices. And if so, can I just call Chris?
Well, as long as the, as you say, the commission is not something where we need to have some bids or whatever, go through some process with 3 agents or something, then I guess I'm fine with just,
Sole sourcing is under $5,000. The commission on that, I mean, the property is probably, how much is the property worth, Charlie?
according to GIS, assessed total is 5,430.
What's 3% of 5,000, $150?
There's also another right next to it in the same predicament. 1.5 acres. So that's one of the abutters. So they're not going to be interested because they're already in the same predicament.
Well, we don't know if they own, or that they owe taxes though.
Right, but they're not going to want to buy it because theirs is landlocked too, is what I'm saying. One of the abutters is also landlocked. So there's only 2 abutters to this property. And it's actually the same person.
Well, there you go.
So you've got one option.
I don't know what happens. Do you have any sense of what happens if we can't sell a thing? I mean, we're just gonna own it and continue, or Gail's gonna own it and continue to increase our tax obligation. Or we're gonna put it to tax sale and it's gonna fall into the hinterland.
I was
forever.
gonna say, it would come to us for unpaid taxes like some of the other land has.
Which we're trying to get rid of.
And that would be the other option, that it just becomes a town parcel without tax. Being taxed.
We have sold property for $1 before, just to put it on the tax roll.
Yeah, and
And that's.
so I'd be open to that, but I can't.
We don't own this one though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's.
yeah, so we can list it anyway. There's nothing we can do right now.
When we're into tax sale, then we own it then. It's 2.
2 acres.
2 acres. It's 2 acres. And the other landlocked next to it is 1.5. The properties, the one property that does abut it, that does have access, is 30 acres and the other parcel is 50 acres.
So why I bring it to you guys.
Move the line.
Should we
Exactly.
call it a butter?
And say what? You want to buy a piece of property we don't own?
Here's her contact. Yeah, no, here's the contact. Call this woman, she'll probably give it to you for the taxes.
I'll throw a third option out there for you. I'm more than happy to turn this back to Patty and ask her to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that we can do until we own it, so it's none of our business.
Right.
To a certain extent, except that if we could facilitate something that would be beneficial to everybody, like calling them and saying, hey, you want to buy that for that kind of money? You know? Then, you know, But I don't see anything that we can do right now.
Just because you have it there, how far, how many acres is that off the road?
It's probably,
It's
They don't
dead
put
in the
that
middle.
there.
it is in the middle of nowhere. I would say it's a good 15 acres away from the road.
Wow.
Wow,
How many?
15
15
acres.
away from the road.
Sounds awesome.
Because
doesn't it?
it's attached to a 30 acre and a 50 acre. Like somebody just cut it back.
So
People are going to kill for that.
at the table, what do we want to do?
This is just weird. I think it's weird, so you can- Yeah, I think we've got to send it back to Patty.
I'm happy to do that. She'll get it tomorrow. Okay. Equipment disposal procedure and the development of an associated policy. Mr. Sauerhofer, the floor is yours. Speaking of getting rid of things that the town owns. Not you.
My one copy, do I need to make more of the?
I have.
I'm gonna make a couple copies.
No,
Okay, well, I tried to get this guy get this to you guys ahead of time. So, basically, we really don't have a very good disposal process, and I want to try to work on that. In the past, we've taken cars to the auction and, we don't get the optimum dollar that we could be getting for them. And, the equipment just gets pushed off and pushed off. We have some stuff, it's not worth a lot of money, but it's worth something. And, it would get to a point where something's been sitting and most of this stuff is probably 25 to 30 years old, the equipment outside of the portable air conditioners. But even the generators, everything comes back to Public Works. That's our motto. Okay, well, that was our motto. Now it goes away. So what I've come up with here is basically what I'm here for is to ask you all to approve the prices, because I think because you guys are in charge, you guys should decide what we're selling this stuff for. I've done a lot of market research. I've used my own experience, and there's a lot of stuff that's just, for instance, we have 7 portable air conditioners units we bought 8 years ago when we were having heating issues here or air conditioning issues here, and we had them hanging out of all the windows. We have a generator, one of these generators used to run Public Works. It's an old Army surplus generator. It's worth its weight in scrap, but they seem to be bringing a tremendous amount of money on the internet. And, we could go down, and if you have any questions on anything we're really getting rid of, I would appreciate your input. And if you think I'm not enough money or I'm too much money, that's what I want to determine here. I basically want to say, you guys are approving these prices, and this is what I'm going to sell it for. It's going to be non-negotiable as is. And if it doesn't sell and somebody offers me a price for it, then I will be back in 2 weeks to say, hey, I couldn't sell, well, we can go, for instance, I couldn't sell the 2013 Interceptor for $3,000, but I've got a guy that said he'll give me 2. You guys want to sell it for 2? I can tell you this, I think
We'll send you back at 2,500.
and that's fine. And when I go back and he says, well, I negotiate. I have no problem negotiating, and you all know that, and, but, that's very reasonable. We could just say, for instance, these police cruisers right now are selling on the internet for between $5,000 and $8,000. But the difference here is they have interiors, we don't. The back seats are still all the police stuff. The plastic panels, you can't open the doors from the inside. They're plastic seats, fiberglass wall. There's no center consoles, and if you look inside it, it's been wired to be a police cruiser. There's wires everywhere. But they run, they shift, and they're good cars. They're great. Hey, I've got a 16-year-old car, And for $3,000 in this market, that's pretty good.
So the general practice would be, that we set you come to us with a surplus list. We agree on a fixed price. You then list it or however you do it.
Yeah.
For that fixed price. Once the fixed price is paid, it goes back to CNR equipment. line.
Right, so my intentions for this sale, and in the past, any vehicles, any police vehicles, any trucks, anything we've ever gotten rid of. Always goes back into our CNR vehicle replacement line. So my intentions for this is. We have a 21-year-old backhoe that's really starting to be a problem, and you guys just gave me a brand new loader, so I can't come up here and ask you, hey, I need $130,000 for a backhoe now. I could generate enough money with this stuff and the cost savings on the loader I just bought to purchase a new backhoe. At zero cost to the town. And this is and to be honest with you, y'all pretty much know that my background is vehicles. I grew up in the car business with my father. Pre-COVID, we were doing great. We were replacing buses. We were rolling them out of here where we were getting money. We were almost to the point where we can purchase vehicles as government so economically. We can run them for 3 years and not lose a penny if we sold them and buy a brand new one. I mean, currently, my truck, for instance, is a 2019. I've got almost 30,000 miles on it. It's still worth the same money that we paid for it in 19. But unfortunately, with supply, and it took me 8 months to get Melissa a minivan. So I wouldn't recommend it now, but it'd be great for us to be rolling out of this stuff sooner and, running it until it's not worth anything anymore is so cost prohibitive. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. But fortunately, we just ordered a brand new 6-wheel dump truck. It's going to be over a year, and it was a $43,000 price increase. Okay, for the exact same truck we just took delivery of in December of last year. The exact same color, same mirrors, same plow, same sander, $43,000 increase. So, I mean, the small equipment, this is just a bay full of stuff that's been sitting there for years. It's more of the vehicles that, I mean, honestly, the 3 of these police cars we've been sitting on for probably over a year, maybe even a little longer. And I'm anticipating them to give me a couple more, and I need a better policy and an easier policy for me, just to say, okay, I got 3 cars here. We're in a prime spot. Every dealer from that end of the state cuts through Woolham Road to get to the auction on Wednesday. I just want to line them up there, and I know they'll just come in and they'll just take them. I know that. The loader, I know it'll be gone. If you give me permission, I'll probably have it gone tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, and that's how quick most of this stuff will go. I mean, it's pretty decent stuff.
How many feet is that sewer snake
200. It's,
in the hand of motorized?
it is motorized. There's a motor concoction with it. Gosh knows where it came from, but it came. It's got an end on it that's like that big, and it takes 4 guys to move the thing.
I graduated one for 350 this past winter,
Oh,
and it didn't work. And it didn't give me my money back.
You could buy one for 200.
Exactly, that's why I have 20 feet in this.
so that's,
So as far as the policy goes, I mean, you're listing to sell it, you're listing, various ways to sell it. So are we gonna follow up with a policy that kind of puts this all together and then list the different ways we can sell? I don't see the auction here. Maybe, I guess. We're not interested in the
I'm
auction.
gonna recommend not the vehicles not go to the auction. We don't make any money with it.
Sure.
Might as well.
So, you know, but do you want that in the future? Like, I think we need to say, here's the valid ways we, you know, avenues we can sell these things. And get that policy together. So, I mean, we could do that policy. So, but I also think we could authorize getting rid of all this equipment now. You know,
Yeah, that would be the dual approach I'd like to try is to, first of all, give them permission to sell these items for this price. And if not, this
through
price,
these avenues.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's the whole thing. This is a test for me to see, okay, where's the best way to get rid of it? So if I say, I mean, you know, like the marketplace, that's my last resort because I'm gonna get a lot of phone calls. So my first resort is, first off, put the stuff out front of Public Works. Put this list on the internet, start some buzz on it, on our website and our Facebook page. Start some buzz on it and see where I go with it. And 2 weeks from now, if I don't sell these pallet of miscellaneous engines, I'm just gonna put them in the scrap dumpster. I'm gonna, you know, and that's it, they're gone. We take that scrap money and it goes back into the general fund. But I'm trying to generate enough funds for myself to do something good for my department. I'm being selfish, but my department. I mean, our backhoe is the key. It goes everywhere. We do everything with it. And anytime a tree's down, anything happens on the road, it's out. You know, so it's not that I'm saying we can't spend the money and fix it, but I'm saying that I could probably sell it for a decent amount and have a brand new one that we don't have to put new pins in and do some major work.
What are the acceptable forms of payment? Are they just cash?
Cash or check.
Yeah.
Bill of sale, as is. I have that all worked out, obviously, you know, right in Word, you can come up and it's as is right across. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. That's it. And then the money will come back to the treasurer and then they'll put it in the appropriate where we have in the past. We're not reinventing that end of it. It's always gone back into vehicle replacement or equipment replacement.
So when you get like the police cars, for instance, does money get exchanged departmentally when you guys take them on? Or
No,
the police
they're-
department just says here?
No, yeah, well, they're technically town vehicles. And all town vehicles come back to us.
Right.
When they're done with it, when Melissa's done with it, when the buses, they come all back to Public Works. We take all the lights off, we do whatever we have to do. And then we would either use it as a trade-in, take it to the auction. You know, and those were really the two avenues. We'd use it as a trade-in and then give us a quarter of the money is worth. We take it to the auction and, you know, they're at the auction, they're trying to buy something the cheap as possible so they can make the most. So by the time we got done paying the fees, we were making $800-900 on cars that were probably, I mean, worth $3,000-4,000.
Or they're redeployed for town departments, like the one here at Town Hall.
Right.
Is an old police car.
Right.
With
No, I'm
140,000 miles. And he was brave enough to take it to New Hampshire.
well,
It worked fine.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. No, I'm just concerned that maybe they'll be squawking about when you took this money that was used to be on the police side. And now,
it's standard.
So, yeah, so what the police commission does, and as a former police commissioner, when the police are done with the car, the police commission makes a motion to give it back to the town.
okay,
And then they say, okay, fine, and then from there it comes to our department.
Okay.
And we've used them in the past to fund the grant money for the bus, you know, we just put the money in the account and.
They said you're gonna bypass the Southern Auto or any other dealership. Does it require any special licensing to put those cars out there for sale?
We own them, we can sell them.
We're
We've
not
sold
starting
them.
a used car line.
I just want to make sure it doesn't.
Now you have to understand, I am the son of a used car salesman. So, but in the past, we've had
I don't want to picking up the paper tomorrow and say we got a car dealership going.
Well, if you drive by Public Works, it looks like a car.
Yeah.
It does, they're all lined up.
Yeah, we have them all lined up. They're ready, they're clean, they're armored all. If you give me permission, tomorrow morning, there will be for sale signs and they'll be inside the fence. All 5 of those cars will be out there. And I'll guarantee you, 2 of them will be gone before I leave. Well, I'm leaving that, I'm working half a day tomorrow, but guaranteed, one of them. One of them might be gone. No, I'm not buying any of them. When you look at the back, it says, Joe does not get, is allowed to do or buy any. Per Carol. So. But
For accountability, I think putting a list out there publicly for accountability is probably the right thing to do. Moving forward and putting in something in writing on how to handle, the stuff rather than just a pile of stuff going to the junk and nobody's aware of it, well, except for you guys. So it's more transparent. So kudos to you for stepping forward to make it more transparent here. But I wouldn't have a problem authorizing tonight to give you permission to start that process, and in the meantime, draft together something and give back to us to look at. And then we can tweak it or send it back, you to tweak it or whatever the case, and try to get it done so that the next round of stuff, something's in place.
I'm fine with whatever you guys want to do. I want to come up with a good procedure. And then that way there it can be followed through by, I mean.
And then
We don't have a lot of stuff to sell. It's mainly the vehicles. And, I mean, when a chair is junk, it's junk. We don't.
But who, the property lists of assets, those vehicles,
All
all this stuff is,
these vehicles are on, when they get transferred over, they're all on Public Works.
so they're on your inventory list,
They're-
and then you would take up them off as so.
I would know it well.
to-
Amy would get the bill of sales and everything. And
Abbreviated.
yeah, I don't know how.
It'd be taken off by, day staff, actually. They're the ones who manage.
Yeah.
Take it off for sure.
We take it off insurance.
And that would come off our
And
property.
you come off your property. list.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we have it followed all the way through to this way. If someone says, hey, what you do with that $3,000?
We have,
Oh, here's the money and
we have
here's
this
where
whole,
it's taken off.
list for all the assets we get rid of in any year.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
And to Amy's point, yeah, but it's always been the vehicles, the big dollar stuff. This little stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you this, that if. We have the drag box, okay? The motors are blown on it. It's been sitting inside the storage container above Public Works on the corner of Stoughton or Scannick and it's been sitting inside, taking up space. And it's so old and so never, why? I mean, it's scrap, but I'm not gonna take it and put it in the scrap dumpster. I will eventually. If it doesn't sell, I'm gonna come back to you and say, I didn't sell this, I'm throwing it and basically scrapping.
Yeah.
The sander, it doesn't have a motor on it. So unless you find somebody that's got a motor that's gonna fit on it, it's no good.
I get it.
So the immediate action item then would be to authorize the sale of the listed items at the listed price. And then the longer term would be for a policy to be developed, effectively codifying this process. Moving forward.
And I can, once I sell all this stuff, then I can come up with okay, well, this worked great this way, and then I can tell you which way sold best, I mean. We'll get a lot of buzz, and we're East Windsor. Some of this stuff is really gonna be a hot commodity to somebody. And I can't be responsible for any blight issues.
I think you sold a sewer stake already.
For sale until this list is on our website and on our Facebook page. And it probably won't happen until Monday. I probably won't have. Sorry. So, plus, Tomorrow's Friday.
So I guess I'll make a motion to authorize Public Works to sell the miscellaneous equipment listed on the disposal list. Through the avenues that are listed on the disposal list. I don't think we want to,
At the price.
at those prices, or so no negotiation, they're all flat fee
No, let's see what happens.
Okay.
Let's do the list. of
at the listed prices.
Second,
Discussion.
We're gonna put a time frame on it. Or is it gonna be-
Well, what I'll do is, if there are any negotiations, I will come back to you in 2 weeks and say, and I will tell the people, if you buy it for this price, I'll let you know in 2 weeks. And we'll come back. So I don't want to negotiate. I don't. I think you guys should decide. It's not my stuff.
I was gonna offer a clarifying comment, but I think you did a good job with that. Really, I was gonna add that color and heat, you know, the dollar value should be established by, on the recommendation of staff by the governing body. You know, we don't want to invite the negotiations.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I get it.
All in favor?
I
Who seconded?
did, okay.
Opposed? All right. Thank you, sir.
And we're waiting for a policy, right?
Yeah, that's gonna take a little bit.
Yeah. I'll work on it.
Okay, I would ask that we table agenda item 9F. Motion
Second.
made and seconded to table agenda item 9F. All in favor? Aye. Sarah.
So it was,
Marie. made-
Marie, sir.
thank you.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Sauerhofer, would you and Mrs. Maltesi please come forward? So in your packet, there are the responses to the bid that was put out for project management of two of the projects we received state bond funds for. One of them is the installation of lights at the Abbey Road Soccer Facility. The other one is the installation of a new, it's not all access anymore, all inclusive playground. So I've read both the bid submissions. They were emailed to you guys, I think, under separate cover. What's your feedback on, I have a preference between these two, but I want to hear what you guys have to say.
You're on a roll.
Well, the two proposals, and unfortunately, that's all we got. But in this market, everybody's busy, so they don't want to be bought. There's one is $4,700 more than the other, so the BC, is it BCH or BC?
BSC.
BSC. They have a ton, and they're the ones that are more money, and those are the ones that I would prefer to go with. They have a ton of experience in the playground design, and that's the key. The lighting is the lighting. I mean, basically, we're gonna put 4 poles up and some lights on it. There's engineering and all that involved, but it's the playscape and where we want to put it, and that's most near and dear to my heart, and I think Melissa feels the same. Although she wants the lights.
No, I definitely concur with Joe says. I'm definitely more comfortable with the BSC group. They have provided us a number of questions. They have followed up a number of times. And I definitely am comfortable with moving forward as long as the board is as well.
So we did not talk about this ahead of time, but BSC is my pick too. And the reason that I like them, despite the cost difference, is I'm pretty familiar with a number of their projects, particularly in the playground space. We do the little kid playground tour these days, and the projects that they included in their scope of accomplishments are awesome. And I just think that having seen what they're able to do, I would like that here. The cost of the project manager is covered by the state bonds, so it's not local dollars that were appropriated. I think we would get a better product at the end of the day.
No argument?
I agree. I just have a question, just for my own clarification. When I was comparing both fee proposals, there was a 0 for structural engineering, and then on the other one, it was 7,000, and there was a difference in a lot of things. I was just curious if you could explain why.
Well, that's a, I guess, I don't want to say it's a big trick, but you know, it's, you come in and you know, honestly, and the 0 is on the lighting, the structural and the lighting, and
Mhm.
basically, when we buy the light poles, the lighting company will give us a stamped set of plans, so there's not gonna be a lot of, you know, structural or design. And if that's how we're purchasing. If they're not, then, you know, the other company's figuring, well, they're gonna have to design them and stuff, you know, do the structural, so. But it's, you know, it's just a way, you know, I mean, they're pretty dead on with the lighting package as far as money.
Mhm.
They're, you know, their overages is a lot on the playground. So that's just how, you know,
Okay.
some people put a higher number there, to try to justify their cost.
Okay, thank you.
I'm down about the playground.
So are we.
So, anybody want to speak in favor of FHI, or are we good with BSC? And if so, could I have a motion?
Oh, the motion needs to include that Jason has the authority to sign the contract, please.
Did you have a comment, Rick?
I just have, just because Sarah brought it up, on the same thought process on the design, record drawings. This company, 29,000, and this company, 1,500. Is it because the designs are already done?
No.
No,
No, it's their pricing structure. We couldn't really figure it out later. If you flip it over and go to the back page, it's the bottom line that, you know,
These two pages.
Yeah.
are most significant.
go to,
yeah.
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 So that's basically, I mean, even if you add the prices up, it still doesn't accumulate their bottom line price.
So,
Yeah.
for the value of the public, the bid from, what was this? BSC for the field lighting is 27,600. From FHI, it's 30,000. The bid from BSC for the playground design is 35,000. For FHI, it's 28,000. So one's a little higher on one, the other is a little higher on the other, but the value difference is like $4,700.
You guys have been dealing with this longer than we have, and I know we've done, and again, no, I've seen all of them, so I would take your recommendation. Based upon what's in here.
Next meeting, I'll be coming forth with a project manager one, and that one's kind of like really.
Gonna make your head pop. That's for the engineering work on the roofs and the HVAC system.
For the schools.
No.
Yeah, but I'm gonna bring Melissa because she's good support.
So what do you guys want to do? BSC or
Our
FHI?
building committee is not going to handle
They will once.
They will once we get this project in the plans.
that? Oh, okay. I'm sorry to meet you ahead of that. So I guess our motion is ordered.
Yes, please.